Hey, so I've been having a kind of a rough week. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but I've been having a rough-ish week for a couple of reasons, including, but not limited to, a lot of dysphoria, like I talked about in my Sunday video. And I'm sure there are a lot of you who watch me who aren't trans or non-binary, and probably some of you don't know what dysphoria is, and you're going to hear on the internet, if you Google it, a lot of controversy over dysphoria. So I'm going to break down dysphoria really quick. Dysphoria is the pain caused by the incongruence between the gender you are and either the way your gender presentation or society's perception of your gender. And those two can be linked, but there you go. So dysphoria is basically a disconnect between who you are and how you look or what other people think you are. And a lot of people are like, isn't that body dysmorphia? No, it's not. And it's not like eating disorders either, which are, I think, a branch of body dysmorphia. So dysmorphia is where you perceive a part of your body inaccurately. So, like, let's use anorexia as an example. Anorexia is classified as such because the anorexic person perceives themselves to be at a different weight than they are. They perceive themselves to be fatter than they truly are. And it's problematic because they're basing this life on this faulty assumption. Or you could say, like, I had boob dysmorphia if I thought my boobs were really small, if I thought I was, like, way too flat or whatever. Because I'm a double D, those are by no means small. So dysmorphia is a disconnect between your reality and the perception of your reality, versus dysphoria, which is a disconnect between your, like, reality and what is supposed to be and what actually is. And it sounds a little weird when I phrase it like that, which is why I like the incongruence between your gender identity and gender presentation, or society's perception thereof. And so a lot of people fight over dysphoria. Nobody fights over having it, but people fight over whether or not you need dysphoria to be trans. And here's the thing. You're not trans if you don't have some sort of incongruence between your gender identity and your gender presentation / the way people interpret your gender / your whatever you were designated at birth. There needs to be some sort of incongruence. If you're fine with your gender at birth, if that's what you are, then you're cis. The problem is, of course, dysphoria has become a loaded term. It's a very medicalized term, and a lot of doctors have preconceived notions of what it means. I'm a trans person. Since I have boobs, I obviously have to have boob dysphoria, and I obviously want to have top surgery. No, I don't have boob dysphoria. Even if I was a trans man, which I'm not, I might not necessarily have chest dysphoria. That's the thing, dysphoria is so intense and personal and whatever, so I can break down how I have dysphoria, but I can't tell you how the next trans person you're going to watch on YouTube has dysphoria. And I can't tell you how much dysphoria is required, or what is required, or whatever. I have dysphoria when it comes to having to claim in an official setting that I'm a girl, because I'm not. So that's a problem. I have dysphoria from people labeling me girl or woman or whatever, because I'm not those things. And I have dysphoria from my periods, and I don't know if that's a physical dysphoria, where it's an incongruence between my gender identity and presentation in terms of, like, what my body's doing, or if it's because periods are so heavily socialized as female, and it could be both, I don't know. But all I know is I don't like them, I don't want them, I don't want kids, I don't want to birth kids, I don't need them. They're not beneficial for me in any way. And also, I have the trashiest, longest periods with the worst cramps, so, like, really. Anyway, so there's dysphoria. The reason it's so controversial is because of this thing called gatekeeping, wherein a lot of people try to put limits and boundaries on what constitutes as dysphoria, on how much dysphoria you need, and the ways in which it is acceptable for you to resolve that dysphoria. And gatekeeping often leads to discrimination against certain trans people, marginalized trans people, specifically poor trans people who can't afford to alleviate dysphoria in the ways that are required by this gatekeeping community, or a lot of non-binary people whose dysphoria doesn't fit into this mold of M2F or F2M or whatever. And so dysphoria is really complicated, but the most important thing to realize is that it's really damaging and really paralyzing. And if I am in the midst of a dysphoric episode, or whatever you call it, it often becomes really difficult for me to do things. There was this one time in the summer I had super bad cramping, super bad dysphoria. I remember second day of my period, sometime in, I think it was July, there were hours of that day I just don't remember because I was just disassociating because of how intensely dysphoric I was. And that's dangerous because I know, based on what other people told me, that I was, like, on a stage doing stuff at, like, my church's VBS, and I could have fallen and hurt myself, and I wouldn't have known because I was disassociating. So dysphoria is real and valid, but also don't tell a trans person they need dysphoria to be trans. It's very likely they have dysphoria. It's very likely they don't want to call it dysphoria, whether it's because the term has become so hate-filled or because their dysphoria doesn't match up with what the standard dysphoria is. So there was a long time where I didn't want to say I was dysphoric. I've come to realize that dysphoria is not the evil thing the internet has made it out to be. Anyway, I don't know. My life is weird for other reasons, but that's okay. That's fine. That's a little crash course on dysphoria. I hope you have a great day.